Putin has alluded to the Yaroslav Hanka incident in the Canadian Parliament, September 2023. This man is a veteran of World War II on the Ukrainian side, and he got 2 standing ovations in the Canadian Parliament. But they later found out that he was part of the SS. So can you explain on this? What are your thoughts on this? This had a very big effect on the narrative, I guess, propagated throughout the region.
Yes. What happened during World War II was that once the Germans started to run out of manpower, they created sort of foreign legion groups. But because those people were not Aryans, they were created for fighting on the battleground. Because they were not Aryans, they couldn't be trusted. So they were put under the command of Henry Himmler, under command of SS, and became known as SS Waffen units. And one of such units was created in Ukraine with great difficulties because Nazis didn't consider Slavs to be generally worthy of even that sort of foreign legion formations. But they made an exception because those people were coming from Galicia, which was part of Austria-Hungary, which means part of Austria, which means somehow were open to the benevolent influence of the Germanic race, and called the division Galician or Galicia. Part of Ukrainian youth joined the division. One of the explanations was that they were looking at the experience of World War I and seeing that the Ukrainian units in the Austrian army then played a very important role in the fight for independence. So that is one of the explanations. You can't just use one explanation to describe motivations of everyone and every single person who was joining there. So they were sent to the front. They were defeated within a few short days by the Red Army, and then were retreating through Slovakia, where they were used to fight with the partisan movement there, and eventually surrendered to the British. So that's the story. You can personally maybe understand what the good motivations were of this person or that person. But that is one of at the best, one of the very tragic and unfortunate pages in Ukrainian history. You can't justify that as a phenomenon. So from that point of view, the celebration of that experience, as opposed to looking at that, okay, that happened, and we wish that those young men who were idealistic or joined the division for idealistic purposes had better understanding of things or made other choices. But you can't certainly celebrate that. And once that happened, that of course became a big propaganda item in the current war. We are talking about 10 to 20,000 people in the division, and we are talking about 2 to 3 million Ukrainians fighting in the Red Army. And again, it's not like Red Army is completely blameless in the way how it behaved in Prussia or in Germany and so on and so forth. But it's basically it's again, we are going back to the story of Bandera. So there is a period of collaboration, and that's what propaganda tries to define him by. Or there is a division Galician by 20,000 people, and somehow it makes irrelevant the experience of 2 to 3 million people.
I mean, just to clarify, I think there is just a blunder on the Canadian Parliament side, the Canadian side, of not doing research. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but from my understanding, they were just doing stupid, shallow political stuff. Let's applaud. When Zelensky shows up, let's have a Ukrainian veteran. Let's applaud a veteran of World War II. And then all of a sudden you realize, well, there's actually complexities to wars. We can talk about for example, a lot of dark aspects on all sides of World War II. The mass rape at the end of World War II by the Red Army when they say march towards Germany. There's a lot of really dark complexity on all sides. So, that could be an opportunity to explore the dark complexity that some of the Ukrainians were in the SS or Bandera, the complexities there. But I think they were doing not a complex thing. They were doing a very shallow applaud, and we should applaud veterans, of course, but in that case, they were doing it for show for Zelensky and so on. So we should clarify that the applause wasn't knowing. It wasn't for the SS. It was for it was for World War II veterans, but the propaganda, or at least an interpretation from the Russian side, from whatever side, is that they were applauding the full person standing before them, which wasn't just a Ukrainian veteran, but a Ukrainian veteran that fought for the SS.
I don't have any particular insights, but I would be very much surprised if even one person in the parliament, I mean the members of the parliament, actually knew the whole story. I would be very surprised.
Yeah, the whole story of this person, and frankly, the whole story of Ukraine and Russia in World War II, period.
Yes.
Nevertheless, it had a lot of power and really reverberated in support of the narrative that there is a neo-Nazi, a Nazi problem in Ukraine.
This is the narrative that is out there, and it's especially powerful in Russia. It's especially powerful in Russia, given that there are really the atmosphere that is created really is not conducive to any independent analysis.
Well, I wonder what is the most effective way to respond to that particular claim. Because there could be a discussion about nationalism and extreme nationalism and the fight for independence, and whether it isn't, like Putin wrote, one people. But the question of, are there Nazis in Ukraine, seems to be a question that could be analyzed rigorously with data.
That is being done on the academic level, but in terms of the public response and public discourse, the only response that I see is not to focus on the questions raised and put by the propaganda, because you already become victim of that propaganda by definition, but talk about that much broadly, and talk about different aspects of, or if it is World War II, about different aspects of World War II. If it's about issue of the far right in Ukraine, let's talk about US, let's talk about Russia, let's talk about France, let's compare. That's the only way how you deal with propaganda, because propaganda is not necessarily something that is an outright lie. It can be just one factor that's taken out of the context and is blown out of proportion, and that is good enough.